suspiciously close to movie images, concise or targeted. Regardless,
2013 ass idea,
and whatever the jungle in Turok was called, you know the one, through the vent. This video is being made in response to SK the Crusaders video, Gamers, Are They the Left's Problem?, that was released on August the 5th. In this video, SK took a topic suggestion that I had put forward in their Discord, and critiqued it publicly, exploring many facets of its direct and indirect assumptions and assertions. The topic suggestion for discussion was gamer culture and what the left can do about it. It was a suggestion that carried a lot of baggage, and that required at least some partial knowledge of the culture wars of the last 10 to 15 years. And frankly, I could have put some more thought into that, refining the terms of the suggestion to make it more concise or targeted. Regardless, SK comes at the topic using their now familiar thoroughness, looking to examine every aspect, to interrogate every assumption for its veracity, especially since they were not convinced of its merit as a topic initially.
I saw it and decided to throw it into a poll, which the patrons and Twitch subscribers get to vote on. And a subtle hint here, if you want me to do your 2013 ass idea, this is how you get me to do it. And it turns out those people picked this topic. Narrowly, admittedly, but I genuinely thought it wouldn't be of interest. But here we are.
SK then proceeds to cover a mind-blowing amount of background, establishing definitions, concept, and the scope of the question they were to answer, before then interrogating the crux of my initial point, and discussing whether there even was any responsibility of the left to gaming culture. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on any specifics of SK's video. You should watch it for yourself. It really is a good use of your time, and I can guarantee you will learn something in doing so. What I do want to do is address a couple of elements that I feel like I would like to expand upon from a personal viewpoint. This is not to counter or argue with any of SK's points specifically, but to instead perhaps flesh out where I was coming from, why this issue was on my mind, and ultimately why I feel like the left should be involved in as toxic and fraught an environment as the online gaming community. That was, after all, the question SK settled on for the title of their video, and so I feel like I should offer a thought on that too. So, like all good stories, let us start at the very beginning. As an elder millennial who has just turned 40, I have played and continue to play my fair share of video games. In fact, I have played more than my share. I have owned at least 4 versions of Skyrim, like 8 versions of Football Manager, an awful lot of the Total War franchise, and I used to subscribe to the yearly purchase of FIFA or Pro Evo as if there was any real changes in the game other than god-awful menu music. But I also remember loading up tape-based games on an Amstrad 464 on a green monitor, and with games that had artwork suspiciously close to movie images. I remember when we got to borrow a NES for a week from one of my dad's friends. Super Mario Bros. Was such a revelation to my young mind. I remember getting our very own console one Christmas. It was a SNES with Street Fighter 2 and Mario Kart, the original Mario Kart. I remember being 12 and buying PC magazines just to get the demo discs so that I could take them to my mate's house and play them on his PC. That was where I first played Grand Theft Auto, when it was all top down and spritey. Games like Carmageddon, Command and Conquer, and of course the classic Beavis and Butthead's Hockaloogie. Much of my growing up and adolescence is built around video games and music, since a new game usually meant there had been birthday or Christmas money in the equation, which meant new CDs as well. At every stage of my life, from when we first got that Amstrad through to now, video games were my escape from the stresses of daily life, and more recently, from the joys of anxiety. I can map out my life via the games that have touched me in some way, that created some emotional resonance that remains on some levels even today. Gamer culture at that point was just us nerds playing video games with our friends. It was Games Master, it was Dominic Diamond, it was magazines printing cheat books, it was 4-player GoldenEye with a shinty third-party controller that had a wobbly thumbstick. Then, as more people began to embrace the potential of the internet, so did gaming. I think the first game I played online was Phantasy Star Online on the GameCube. It took me ages to find the modem adapter for that bloody thing, but it was so exciting being able to communicate with other players simultaneously across the world, even if we sort of tend to forget how many attempts it took to actually connect to the same server at the same time, the lag, trying to type messages on a GameCube controller. Now, I don't say all this in some sort of it was better then rose-tinted nonsense nostalgia. but simply to illustrate how intertwined video game culture was with my youth, and continues to be in my adulthood. It's important to me. It has meaning even now. As a quiet kid who struggled to socialise, I moved away from my friends at 15 to a new town, away from the world I knew. So I relied on the worlds of Hyrule, the Mushroom Kingdom, and whatever the jungle in Turok was called, because they were the few consistent threads that remained from the life I had into the new one. I could retreat into video games and distance myself from my worries, and find the simple joy of repeatedly killing that first guard on the facility level of GoldenEye. You know the one, through the vent. The fact is that the online element of modern gaming, paired with the social media landscape surrounding it, means that this sanctuary from daily life has been somewhat punctured by access to millions of other people. And this can be seen as both good and bad. A sense of community can absolutely be virtual as much as local, and some of my favourite people I only know as a result of online interactions. But we do have to acknowledge that many see this kind of access to other people, particularly young people, as an opportunity to extract profit or to exert influence. The normalisation of ableist, racist, misogynistic, homophobic and transphobic slurs, the resistance to diversity and representation, and the sheer amount of incel and fascist commentary and media presence in the wider gaming community can make the whole culture feel like a bit of a lost cause. And this isn't helped by the indifference of the platforms themselves, who are slow, if not entirely resistant, to enforcing standards of behaviour beyond those that directly affect their ad revenue. So surely we can't be abandoning the next generations to navigate these shark-infested waters alone. What is to be done? Before we go any further, if you're enjoying this content, please give it a like, and consider subscribing for more lefty nerd content. Each interaction, like, share and comment, tells YouTube that there might be something here worth sharing with more people. So if you can spare a few clicks, it would be hugely appreciated. And that goes for all of the YouTube content you watch. Give all those accounts clicks. We all need food for the precious algorithm. So, is the gaming culture fully captured by the right? Or do we just not get to see as much of the other views due to the nature of conflict harvesting social media platforms? Well, as SK the Crusader rightly points out in their video, games like Fortnite have a player base of millions, and they can't all be unemployed fash fail-sons, can they? But all the same, in an environment so coloured by a particular point of view, it's important that we are able to provide a visible, alternate viewpoint. And if necessary, a safe space for those that are uncomfortable with the louder elements of the gamer community. I'm often taken back to what was famously dubbed the Great Wall of Gammon, the episode of British political TV show Question Time in the lead up to the 2017 general election between Jeremy Corbyn's Labour and Theresa May's Death Party. Now, the impartiality of the BBC, in big bloody quotation marks, was once again found wanting as a carefully selected coterie of clearly right-wing, mostly older gentlemen pelted Corbyn with comments and questions.
Speak away, speak away. Hi, Jack.
Is Labour's manifesto a realistic wish list, or is it just a letter to Santa Claus?
It was relentless, as face after angry pink face was picked to add to the carnage, and as a then Labour activist, it was like being repeatedly punched in the ribs. It felt like the whole world was against us and this mild-mannered MP from Islington. But the section of the show I remember most was largely focused on his unwillingness to commit to using nuclear weapons in an international conflict.
No, yeah, you said that you
Would you use it as second use? Or would you allow North Korea or some idiot in Iran to bomb us and then say, oh, we better start talking? You'd be too late.
No, of
You're
course
going to have
not.
to do it first, mate.
And all for questioning whether kindness should be given the same level of consideration as nuclear annihilation. And then, a question went to a young woman in the audience. And she said one of the most memorable things that I can ever remember hearing on TV.
Just before, I don't understand why everyone in this room seems so keen on killing millions of people with a nuclear bomb.
There was this huge wave of applause, and you can just feel the relief of the audience when they realise that not everybody in the room is here to shout about how much they love nuclear bombs or using them. Even now, when I remember this moment, I feel quite emotional about the courage of that young woman, standing up and voicing her incredulity in a space where nearly every voice selected for the mic was so opposed to her views. And it really hit home for me the importance of always having a voice of protest in areas where one view is perceived to dominate, especially when it is designed to amplify only one point of view. Our perception is restricted to what we can see and hear around us. And in an environment as claustrophobically right-wing as the neoliberal democracies of most of Europe and the US, we find ourselves huddling together in silos of similar-minded communities, reassuring ourselves that we're not alone. But this creates two problems for the left. Firstly, that you can only hole up in a lefty safe space if you are aware it exists and where it is. And secondly, if we want left ideas and values to propagate amongst future generations, we need to involve ourselves in the social reproduction of our societies. And yes, that means video games too. Left voices, opinions and personalities need to be out there in the spaces that people interact, ensuring that no matter how bleak things look, there is a source of light to head towards, and to help find others that feel the same way. In the comment sections of the latest woke controversies, you will see the usual opinions being shared. You will see the dog whistles, the hateful projection, the vile language, and it can quickly begin to feel like that Wall of Gammon episode of Question Time. So it is then that when we feel strong enough, we need to be like that young woman on Question Time, and to put our head above the parapet and call out wrongs when we see them. We need to show that despite the prevalence of right-wing language in gaming culture, that there is another path. One that preaches tolerance, diversity and kindness, to counter the bigotry, ableism and blinkered worldview that the right continues to push on vulnerable and alienated young people. Ultimately, the future of human life on our planet will depend on what the next generations decide is possible and desirable, and to allow them to be saturated in the negativity, nihilism and self-destructive views of the far-right pipeline uncontested is simply not acceptable. Let's at least arm them with the knowledge that there is another way, and they needn't walk it alone. My original suggestion for SK, to cover gamer culture, was not an especially developed thought, more a reaction to what felt like a series of quite grim comment sections on the gamer-related channels of Facebook and Twitter, where the tone and language was so mired in right-wing rhetoric that I had an almost visceral reaction to it. The future of this country in particular is pretty bleak at the moment, and fascism and its smartly dressed liberal vanguard are already wheeling out language that targets immigrants, asylum seekers and the trans community. We are well into the othering stage of fascistic governance, in other words. It is the left's responsibility to both provide a voice to counter this barrage of nonsense wherever it's found, and to signpost to those that already recognise this danger that they are not alone. No one person can do this all the time, 24/7, but we can all do a little. Even if it is just boosting left-wing voices to enable them to get out to more people, sharing that link, liking that video, amplifying the signal. The left needs to be visible, audible and present in order to contest the gaming cultural spaces, to ensure that our future is full of people who have encountered at least 2 points of view, rather than just one. It's not easy. And as with all my content, I have oversimplified, generalised, and I'm talking from a position of cis-het white male privilege that will colour my own experience, and might mean that my observations are completely useless. But I think it's important we have these conversations, even if it results in everyone telling me I'm wrong. Because if we're talking about it, we're thinking about how we can make things better. I would be really interested to know about good left accounts that already operate in the gaming space, on YouTube, Twitch and TikTok. Accounts already doing good work that we can amplify and try to draw more people to. Please post your suggestions in the comments. Let's do something positive together. On that note, thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this rather personal and waffly reaction video. And again, if you haven't already, do check out SK's video. It really is rather good. Give it a like, subscribe to their channel, share it with a friend. Let's grow some left-wing accounts, develop these networks, get our voices out there. The left can build a better future, but we're going to need each other to do it. Thank you. Bye for now.